You know that thing where you're a kid and you're sick and your Nana's taking care of you, rubbing Vicks on your chest, and you only really feel better once the menthol clears your sinuses enough that you can smell the comforting aroma of her cigarette? I was a pack-a-day smoker for 20 years, and my habit felt predetermined. I come from a gregarious, loving family that runs deep with smokers. I spent my childhood cutting up straws, taking apart pens, finding the perfect twig, just anything I could tuck between my fingers or dangle from the corner of my mouth, until I was old enough to get my hands on the real thing and join them, cocktail in hand, having the time of our lives. There were only two kinds of candy cigarettes I could practice with back then, the gross bubblegum kind and the hard candy kind, with that one really good puff of powdered sugar. But there were a million kinds of real cigarettes, and as soon as I was legal, I made it my mission to try them all. Marlboro Lights, Camel Lights, Camel Reds, Camel Menthols when I was being an absolute slut. Lucky Strikes in my vintage shirts phase. American Spirits when I went to organic. Players, the best you can get your hands on in Canada. Dunhills for weddings, Vegas and special occasions. Nat Sherman Fantasias exclusively for New Year's Eve. And ultimately, Parliament Ultralights, P-Funks. That was my brand, y'all. I was old enough to read and comprehend the Surgeon General's warning label, but family and social connections were just worth the risk. I started smoking in earnest when I moved to California, just as the state began passing anti-tobacco legislation that took all the fun out of my favorite pastime. So sure, I smoked for 2 decades, but I spent 14 of those years trying to quit as I slowly ran out of places to legally light up. I tried gum, patches, cold turkey, medication, hypnosis, strict rationing, iPhone apps, very expensive Japanese filters. Taking my health more seriously also felt like canceling my personality or cutting ties with my family. Some people, cough and gag at the hint of smoke, but to me, cigarette smoke, it smells like love, care, and attention, connection, relaxation, good times. My last attempt to quit randomly coincides with a certain presidential election where a certain president won, a certain female candidate lost, and California voters passed Proposition 64, legalizing recreational marijuana. On this night, as I crush my final P-Funk underfoot in my driveway, I can feel something thick in the atmosphere of my mostly liberal part of town. My neighbors all look like baby ducks who've just had the contents of an oil tanker unceremoniously dumped on their downy little heads. Just then, a white woman in her 20s walking her dog ambles by. "You better be smoking ganja, bro!" She cries out. She's clearly focused on the recent win for weed culture. She offers to share a joint and then dumps her purse on my lawn and sifts through the contents to find the biggest joint I have ever seen. It is at least 5 inches long. It is festooned with a shimmering spiral of green gel that I later learn is concentrated hash resin and edible glitter. Now just then, some guy passes us, another complete stranger, near her age, also white. "You want to smoke some weed, bro?" she calls out. Am I seriously considering splitting this joint with 2 strangers? The thing is, until just moments ago, I was a smoker, not a toker. A weak one-hit wonder at best. The first time I smoked skunk weed in high school, things went wonky fast. There was a trampoline and some light nudity, a string of Italian expletives from a very shocked mom, and a promise to myself to keep my vices safe, legal, and available over the counter. But on this night, there's no female president. Marijuana is almost more legal than tobacco, and this clown, who I've been warning people about all through the election cycle, he actually has the keys to the nation. In this moment, we could all use a little connection. a little relaxation and some goddamn good times. So, step onto my front porch, stranger girl, past the Dutchie, some guy who was moments ago just walking by and minding his business. Let us indulge in legal sparkling marijuana together. First hit. This is how we get through the next 4 years. Create a community and resisting the right. Second hit, and I am high. But I'm also safe. I am at home on my front porch. So what is the worst thing that can happen? If I puff and pass for a third time, I will tell you what happens. I'm suddenly very paranoid and very certain I'm about to be robbed. So stranger girl's dog is a German Shepherd, right? Known for terrorizing black civil rights marchers, attacking fugitives, and sniffing for contraband. And it's very intelligently nosing at the front door of my house. But if we're doing the drugs, and the drugs are legal, I deduce, then this German Shepherd has logically been retrained to smell cash, valuables, and identity documents. And since stranger girl and some guy are both white, they are obviously a team of racist house robbers who go around making actions super duper high, knowing that I cannot dial 911 on them for robbing me because the police will arrest me for being too high while black. I get carted off to jail. Stranger girl and some guy let their white supremacist German Shepherd burglar dog off his leash. The dog leads them through my house, wagging his tail at everything worth stealing, which he has already pre-sniffed out with his trained dog nose. As I make paranoid excuses to cut the evening short, stranger girl insists I keep the unsmoked half of the shimmery mega joint, which, suspicious much, they want me to keep, so that the police can justify use of force. I run inside with the evidence, I lock all the doors and windows, I grab a kitchen knife to protect me and my valuables, important stuff, $200 worth of loose change in a jar on a dresser, my passport, my Lego collectibles. So, back in the before times, when sensible, well-educated black people were in charge, I got furious with anyone who thought this new president's campaign was amusing or unserious. Basic American facts made it clear, to me at least, that this new president would ride a wave of racism, misogyny, homophobia, and xenophobia straight into the White House. And now it feels equally as clear to me that this body, brandishing a knife at the LAPD while explaining a vast MAGA conspiracy to rob my house aided and abetted by a German Shepherd? It's not going to play well with the cops. It's going to get me shot to death in my own house. Where my paranoia intersects reality, that guy's the president, weed is legal, and I'm not. Actually, scratch that. My paranoia is the reality. I did not phone the police. I phoned a friend who was smart and sober enough to calm me down, examine the half-smoked glitter spliff, and diagnose me as deeply in need of a pizza and sleep. Now, since that 2016 election, we have lived through a rogue presidency, a pandemic, a social justice uprising, and an insurrection/attempted coup. No one would blame me if I slipped, even once. But I finally managed to survive all that and remain cigarette-free. 8 years later, we're on the cusp of another election where that same certain presidential candidate is up against another female opponent. And if by now you don't understand what's at risk, man, you must be high.